Mel, 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 everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everyone, Cantonese Cat here, Wolf, WULF. 25% institutional holdings. It's been going up pretty exponentially over the last year. And this is the monthly chart of Wolf. If you pull out the Black Cat Fund Flow trend, and also see that you really do have accumulation over here over last year. The outflow has been decreasing, the inflow has been coming, especially over the last few months. Even the price had went sideways. Had a little bit of buy signal over here too per Black Hat L3 Vanguard Fund Flow trend also later, which is a positive thing in general. If you just look at the way that it looks morphology wise, it really does look more of like a ascending triangle look to it. Usually when you have an ascending triangle, or it could be like a big cup and big handle kind of thing, whatever you call it, this looks more like a bullish formation for the most part. Again, it's putting a lot of energy over here, right? But there's a lot of demand for this stock as it goes through time, and that also shows up in institutional accumulation data. There's just a lot of demand for TeraWulf. It had its earning this week, had a big drop, but it recovered because Bitcoin recovered. And so far is still basically doing the same thing. Like earnings didn't really change the way that looks technically when we're in Nether. Gonna pull up some of the other indicators here, trying to show you what I'm seeing here. Now the Ichimoku cloud is gonna end up lagging in terms of the bullish cross because price have gone like all the way up here in like the 40s all the way down to like 50 cents, right? So you're going to end up having a big lag in terms of the Tenkan cross. What is more important though is that the Tenkan is now flipped from being resistance back into support. So far for the month of April and May, Tenkan is support, which in general is a good setup for this to potentially be a beginning of a stronger bull trend on its way up, right? So that's a bullish development. If you look at the bull in Japan, you can also see this. This is the same thing that you're seeing in a lot of miners, where you just start to have this 20-month moving average start to curl up for a few months. And TeraWulf has the same look to it. Like, it looks like there's a lot of bullish energy that's being built up over here, just waiting to be released. And if you look at the 2-week, I'm going to try to the 2-week Ichimoku cloud here. It looks very, very interesting that it's just basically been kind of going sideways and down a little bit on declining volume. So there's not really a whole heck of selling pressure over here on the 2-week chart over the last couple of months, right? Went inside the cloud and it's just kind of hanging out inside the cloud over here. I wonder if I see anything on the Tsubichi cloud. No, not really. I mean, basically it's still flipping the Tenkan from resistance to support. It's just kind of riding along here, but it's not really inside the Tsubichi cloud. But the Ichimoku cloud is inside of it, which is interesting. There's a good chance that it might go towards the end of the Ichimoku cloud over here. It might end up bouncing up from there. We'll see what happens when it gets there, though. I mean, certainly hope it doesn't fall out of it, but certainly there's no indication so far that that's going to be the case. Pull some of the other indicators here. You have to move to the weekly time frame, and if you move on the weekly time frame, this whole volume signature is going to be very, very apparent to you. What I meant by that is you have big giant buy pressure over here, declining sell pressure, increasing buy pressure, declining sell pressure, increasing buy pressure over here, declining sell pressure, a little bit up over here. Right now it's just kind of going sideways and consolidating over here, waiting for the next move. What's the next move going to be? If you really think this could be an ascending triangle, the next move is probably going to be up. You put the bull market support band, it's been right at the support band. It's found support right at the bull market support band. It's pointing up a little bit. So if you have to make a guess, the next move is probably up. Let's put up the other moving averages over here, and you will see that 20 is about 50, above 100. This is still a bull trend. The bull trend is still intact, and it's finding support at bull market support band. So far, leaning bullish. Right? The weekly Ichimoku cloud can show you that price is just kind of stuck inside the cloud for now, but it's just been oscillating up and down, up and down, up and down. Even though it's inside the cloud right now, again, it depends on where you think the next move is going to be, right? I still think it's going to be up based on a volume signature. Let's see, if I pull up the Super Ichi cloud, it's probably not going to show you too much here, although you do have a bullish crossover here on the weekly, and right now price is above the Super Ichi Tenkan and Kijun, which is going to be more favorable for it to have some bullish continuation. The Super Ichi cloud is basically a version of Ichimoku cloud takes into account a super trend, so it's leaning bullish on a lot of these different indicators, but it is consolidating. The next move is favored to be up. Another thing that is positive for TeraWolf is if you click on the cycle low down here. I'm just going to click that to use that as an encrypt spot for the volume weighted average price, which tells you on average, the buyers started buying here from this point on. Are people, where's the average price for folks that are holding? Is it above or below? This generally serves as pretty important support or potentially resistance. And right now, we bounced off of it. We're above the VWAP or volume weighted average price from the cycle bottom. That is also leaning bullish. So there's a lot of things that are leaning bullish here for TeraWolf to consider. Another one that people tend to talk a lot about that also just had earnings today after hours, initially dropped like 12 to 13%, and then it stopped dropping less and less and less as Bitcoin was doing better and better. Like it dropped to about maybe like 6%. It probably would open negative 10% or more tomorrow morning, unless the Bitcoin does really well. But that's okay. The whole idea about Irene or Iris Energy is like the old name for the company. The whole idea is that it's been oscillating between the weekly Ichimoku cloud here for quite some time too. If it was dropping like 10, 12%, it would be hitting the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud right here. The cloud is thin; it could potentially break underneath, and it could potentially have some bearishness going on. But it's still a cloud. It's still potential support. And if it goes down to like 4.5, it's just going to hit the bottom of the cloud over here. For the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really mean anything. Even if it goes down like 10, 12, 13%, it doesn't mean anything. It's still potentially finding support underneath, right? If you look at the weekly, now that I'm just on the weekly, I'm just going to put the weekly indicators over here. It is at risk for losing its bull trend because it's just been consolidating for so long. 20 is still above the 50, it's still about 100, but is starting to potentially lose its bull trend. It did get rejected from a negative sloping 20-month moving average, which is a part of the bull line support band, right? It did get rejected from here. So, but the 50 is also rising. Like obviously, if we end up closing, or we end up opening tomorrow at like 4.5, we end up closing the week underneath right here, then 50 is not going to end up being support, right? But 50 is still pointing up, so I'm going to give it a benefit of the doubt. It could potentially serve as support. If it doesn't end up finding support around 4.5 or around 5 over here, what are some of the supports down below? Well, yikes, right? Let's look at it from the cycle bottom. The VWAP's actually resistance right now, right? It's been trying. That's another reason maybe why it's getting rejected and it's not ready to go up yet, because you're also having a little bit of resistance down here. Now, but if you pull up the volume shelf, just kind of look at the strongest volume traded hands in terms of which price point is going to be more resistance and support. It's just basically serving as a big giant magnet over here on this big giant volume shelf. Like let's say if it goes down to like 4.5, like it doesn't really matter that much. You might end up finding support right around this bottom of this volume shelf over here. It's really kind of negligible in terms of what it's trying to do. It's consolidating. It's hard to find out what it's doing. If you look at the fintel.io data though, something interesting has popped up. is that the month of May seems to have increased institutional accumulation. I mean, granted, it's only got about like 22% of institutional holding. It's not like a big institution stock or anything like that, but it's increasing over time. They are diluting, right? So, but there it looks like there are enough institutions that are willing to come in and swoop up shares, right? And these are not like your BlackRock or or Vanguard, but you do have like Citadel. You do have some bigger name institutions that are trying to come in and take shares from you, and it's just been going sideways, consolidating. It's hard to know, but if you look at monthly, it's going to give you a much better picture in terms of where the trend is. Because you have a bull trend that has started to develop down up here, you're going to start taking account of this bullishness over here. If you look at a monthly, if anything, this looks kind of like Cypher, doesn't it? Big cup, smaller cup, right? It does look like there's a lot of energy that's trying to build up to try and break above this like big giant volume shelf over here, right? And it looks like it's knocking on the door a little bit more frequently, although it's having a little bit harder time trying to get back up there so far. And I'm going to show you like, 20-minute moving average is very, very nicely sloping up right now. The 20-minute moving average is like at 4.07. So even if price dropped down to like 4.5, 4.4, like you're still going to have some pretty decent support underneath down here if it needs it. But it probably would find support, I would imagine, around like 4.5 or maybe even like 4.3, somewhere around here. I would imagine it end up finding support around there and not go too much further. We will see. We will see. Part of the reason is because you saw what I saw with institutional accumulation. You do have over the last couple of months, you do have these red volume bars over here. It tells you that these red candles have a lot of negative energy over here. But if you look at the 2-week chart and you split the month apart, up down down up down down, like it's just basically consolidating. These are not really that big of like sell pressure, if you will. Matter of fact, I think these sell volume are kind of misleading, because if you look at the on balance volume, which takes in the whole thing into account in terms of volume, you can see that price from here to here actually has gone up, but the volume actually gone down in terms of on balance volume. This is a very nice like hidden bullish divergence over here. There's actually some bullishness that energy is being built up over here as price has gone up and the unbalanced volume gone down. So these are actually contributing to this hidden bullish divergence over here. I am not too worried about this stock, technically speaking, because again of the way that the monthly looks, with a nicely going up 20-month moving average and price is still on the upper part of the Bollinger Band. I am also not that excited when you look at the Ichimoku cloud analysis. Is still trying to flip the Tenkan over here from resistance to support, right? So there's some weakness to it, but there are also some strength to it as well. Like this is not a clear-cut case like Cypher. This is not a clear-cut case like Mara or even like CleanSpark. It's kind of entering a little bit more of like a Riot BTBT kind of territory, where I can see some pluses, I can see some minuses. But the thing is, it's still got a weekly bull trend. So even though the weekly bull trend is weakening, it's still got a weekly bull trend. So I still find the stock to be favorable. I still find the volume to be favorable. Buying pressure up, selling volume down. Buying pressure up, selling volume down, right? I still find these kind of signature favorable. I still think that it's probably going to end up going back over here to the top of the range, at the top of the volume shelf, and trying to challenge price and go up higher. I still think it's going to happen. But we'll get through one thing at a time. Like we had earnings, there are concerns about dilutions. You might end up having a pretty significant drop, either like 4.5 or 4.3, maybe even lower, right? We'll see how it goes tomorrow. Nobody really knows. If Bitcoin does well, it might not even go down that far. If the IWM does really well, it might not even go down that far. You might end up just bouncing from like 4.8 or something like that, or even like 4.6 or something like that, and it'll be fine. Like it finds support over there, and that's it. We'll see what happens. Lastly, I do want to talk about one that, is still on a lot of people's radar, which is HUT. I'm just going to go through, like, HUT is probably the most technically weak one out of all of them that I'm seeing so far. I mean, there are some weaker miners, don't get me wrong, but HUT is one of the weaker ones. If you look at the Ichimoku Cloud, no cross underneath Tinkin. If you look at the 20-month moving average, underneath it is flattening, which is a good sign, but currently is way underneath of the 20-month moving average, right? If you look at the, like Tsuruichi Cloud, same thing, underneath the Tenkin and Kijin. If you look at the 2-week, where you're going to see the Ichimoku Cloud getting rejected from the bottom of the cloud multiple times, getting rejected so far by the Tenkin over here too. A lot of resistance above, right? You look at the weekly, what are you going to see? Are you going to see a bull trend or are you going to see a bear trend? There's no bull trend, right? 50 is above 100, great, but 20 is below both of these. Like 20 is way down, is negative sloping. Is serving a little bit as a resistance, so our price kind of able to break above it a little bit. I'm not sure if the week is going to have closing like this, but it's basically finding resistance at a bull market support band, right? So you have a lot of resistance above. If you also look at the volume shelf in terms of what the resistances are, you're kind of stuck underneath this, volume shelf over here. So you have a lot of these different, resistances over here that is making this not a favorable stock so far. Broke underneath the weekly Ichimoku Cloud and just kind of staying right underneath over here, consolidating sideways. But you have a lot of resistance above that it needs to break through before it becomes bullish. Is it going to end up breaking out above and be bullish? Probably, because look over here. Look over here. It kind of went horribly for a very long time, and sure, it developed like a inverted head and shoulder pattern and broke out above, but it went horribly over here for a long time underneath a bunch of resistance, and there was a late boomer for last cycle. I'm not really seeing that kind of accumulative pattern. Like, I'm not really seeing like a clear inverted head and shoulder pattern like I did over here, So who knows what price is going to do? I just found it to be like a little bit of a major laggard, so I got out of it. Unfortunately, if you look at what the institutions are doing for HUT, I don't know, man. What are the institutions doing for HUT? Let's pull up fintel.io. Yeah, there was an outflow and there was a little bit of inflow that came back in May. I mean, it's still a Bitcoin miner, bottom line. You're still going to end up having institutions that are going to be interested in that. They do have a pretty decent Bitcoin hodling stack. So you are going to have people that are going to be interested in coming in still. But it's a laggard. If you look at the Blackhead, banker fund flow, you do have some institutions that have come in, for the month of May, but it's just not nearly as impressive and as consistent as some of the other ones. Anyway, I'm done talking about these. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.